True justice doesn't always make a sound. Sometimes it arrives quietly in the dead of night to settle the score. Experience the chilling reality of karma and the stories of those who finally found their peace. Subscribe now and witness the power of silent justice. The candles were already lit when I pulled into my aunt's driveway. I could see them through the front window, warm, golden, flickering against the glass. I could hear the laughter before I even opened my car door. My daughter, Lily, was asleep in her car seat, her cheek pressed against the fabric, her small mouth slightly open. She'd fallen asleep 20 minutes into the drive, clutching the little wrapped box she'd picked out herself, a snow globe. She'd saved her allowance for 3 weeks to buy it for Grandma Ruth. She was 5 years old and she had saved her allowance. I sat in the driveway for a moment and just breathed. This was going to be fine. It was Thanksgiving, my grandmother's house, my family. I unbuckled Lily carefully, lifted her into my arms, grabbed the tote bag of food I'd spent 2 days preparing: the sweet potato casserole, the homemade cranberry sauce, the cornbread, and walked up the front steps. I knocked twice, the way I always did. My Aunt Carol opened the door. She looked at me, then at Lily, then back at me. She didn't smile. "Oh," she said. "We didn't think you were actually coming." I almost laughed because I thought she was joking. "I RSVP'd 3 weeks ago," I said. "I confirmed again last week." Carol tilted her head slightly, the way she did when she was about to say something she'd already rehearsed. "We have a full table, Claire. You know how the house gets. There really isn't room." Behind her, I could see the dining room, the long table my grandfather had built, the mismatched chairs pulled from every corner of the house, the good china, the candles. My cousin Derek was there, his wife, their 3 kids, my Uncle Pete, my mother. My mother was there. She was looking right at me from across the room. She looked away. "Mom?" I said, not to Carol, but loud enough to Carrie. "Mom, can you—" "Carol's hosting," my mother said, without turning around. "It's her call." Lily stirred in my arms. She blinked, looked around, confused. "Are we there?" she whispered. "Yeah, baby," I said quietly. "We're here." Carol shifted in the doorway. "I'm sorry, Claire. It's just you should have confirmed sooner." I had confirmed. I had confirmed twice. I had a text thread to prove it, but I didn't say that. Because Lily was awake now, and looking at the door, and I could feel her starting to understand that we were not going inside. "Okay," I said. My voice came out steadier than I felt. "Okay." I turned around. I walked back to the car. I buckled Lily into her seat. She was quiet the whole time, which was worse than if she'd cried. When I got into the driver's seat, she said, very carefully, "Did they not want us to come?" I gripped the steering wheel. "Grandma Ruth didn't know we were coming," I said. "I think there was some confusion, but I brought her the snow globe." "I know, sweetheart. Does Grandma Ruth not want to see me?" There are moments in parenthood that split your life into before and after. This was one of them. I sat in my grandmother's driveway, the smell of roasting turkey drifting out from inside the house, my daughter asking me if her grandmother wanted to see her, and I had nothing. No words that were both true and kind at the same time. "Grandma Ruth loves you very much," I said finally. This wasn't her doing. I backed out of the driveway. My grandmother, Ruth, was 81 years old and sharper than anyone in our family wanted to acknowledge. She had built a life from very little, raised 4 kids, managed the household finances for decades while my grandfather worked, kept every birthday, every anniversary, every school play in a small leather notebook she still carried in her purse. She remembered everything. She forgot nothing. She also had a ring. It had belonged to her mother, and before that, to her mother's mother. A narrow gold band with a small oval sapphire, surrounded by seed pearls. Not enormously valuable by jeweler's standards, she'd told me once, but irreplaceable by every other measure. She had told me when I was 16 that the ring was mine when she passed. She hadn't told anyone else she'd said that, or so I thought. I found out later that my cousin Derek knew. His wife Angela had gotten it out of Grandma Ruth somehow. A careful question over coffee, a gentle probe, maybe more than one. Angela was good at that, extracting things. But I didn't know any of that on Thanksgiving. On Thanksgiving, I was just driving. I'd gotten about 12 minutes from the house when my phone rang through the car speakers. Lily was half asleep again. I glanced at the screen. "Grandma Ruth." I answered immediately. "Hey, Grandma." "Claire Marie." Her voice was sharp. Not sharp like angry, sharp like focused. "Where are you right now?" I hesitated. "I'm in the car. We left." Silence. "Then, they turned you away." "It wasn't a question. There wasn't enough room at the table," I said carefully. Another silence. Longer. I could hear her breathing. I knew that breathing it was the same breathing she did when she was choosing her words deliberately, making sure each one landed exactly where she intended. "Turn the car around," she said. "Right now." "Grandma, I don't want to make a scene." "Claire," her voice didn't rise. It didn't have to. I said, "Turn the car around. This is my home, my table, and I was not consulted about who was and wasn't welcome at it. You turn that car around, and you bring my great-granddaughter inside, and you let me handle the rest." I pulled over to the side of the road. I sat there for a second. "Are you sure?" I said. "I have been sure about very few things in my 81 years," Grandma Ruth said. "I am sure about this. Turn around." I turned around. When I pulled back into the driveway, I could see Carol in the front window. She saw my headlights. She disappeared from the window. By the time I was unbuckling Lily, the front door opened. But this time it wasn't Carol standing in it. It was Grandma Ruth. She was small. She'd shrunk a couple inches since I was a child, wearing the burgundy cardigan she saved for holidays, her white hair pinned neatly at the back of her neck. She was holding the door open with one hand and looking at my car with an expression I had never seen on her face before, something between fury and love, compressed into a thin, steady line. "Come in," she said. I carried Lily up the steps. Grandma Ruth held the door open wider and touched Lily's cheek as we passed. "Hello, my darling," she said softly. "I'm so glad you came." "I brought you a snow globe," Lily said, still half asleep. "Did you? I can't wait to see it." The dining room went quiet when we walked in. Not the kind of quiet that happens naturally. The kind of quiet that falls over a room when everyone has been watching the door, waiting, and then the thing they were waiting for actually happens. My mother was at the far end of the table. She looked at me and then quickly at her plate. Derek's wife Angela smiled too fast, the way people do when they're nervous. My Uncle Pete looked genuinely uncertain, glancing between me and Grandma Ruth. Carol was standing by the kitchen doorway. She looked at Grandma Ruth. "Mom, I explained to Claire that we're at capacity." "Sit down, Carol," Grandma Ruth said. It was 4 words. Quiet 4 words. Carol sat down. Grandma Ruth looked around the room. "Someone get 2 more chairs from the back hallway. Lily will sit next to me. Claire, you're between Lily and Pete." She turned toward the kitchen, and someone set 2 more places. Nobody argued. Derek got up and got the chairs. Dinner was strange. It had the shape of a normal Thanksgiving. The food, the wine, the obligatory conversation about football, but underneath it ran something tight and unspoken. Carol laughed a little too loudly at Derek's jokes. Angela kept looking at Grandma Ruth. My mother refilled her wine twice in the first 20 minutes. Lily ate her mashed potatoes and eventually remembered the snow globe. She climbed down from her chair and carried it around the table to Grandma Ruth, holding it in both hands like an offering. Grandma Ruth took it carefully. She held it up to the candle. Inside the glass, a small winter village, a dusting of snow that drifted when she turned it. She watched it for a long moment. "This is the most beautiful thing anyone's given me in years," she said. Lily beamed. Angela said, with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, "Lily, aren't you sweet? You'll have to come back and see Grandma Ruth sometime when there's more room." There was a half-second pause. Grandma Ruth set the snow globe down on the table very gently and looked at Angela. "Angela," she said, "when is the last time you brought me anything?" The table went silent again. Angela's smile flickered. We brought wine. Derek brought wine. I'm asking you." The silence stretched. Grandma Ruth picked up her fork and resumed eating. The conversation slowly, awkwardly restarted. But something had shifted. Some weight had moved. After dinner, while the others were clearing plates, Grandma Ruth asked me to help her with something in the study. Lily had fallen asleep on the living room couch under the quilt that had always lived on the back of it, the snow globe on the side table next to her. The study was small and wood-paneled, smelling of old paper and the particular lavender sachet Grandma Ruth had kept in there for as long as I could remember. She went to the desk and sat down heavily in the chair. I sat across from her. "I need to tell you something," she said. I waited. "My ring is missing." I didn't understand at first. "Your which ring?" "My mother's ring. The sapphire." A cold feeling moved through me. Missing how? I noticed it 2 weeks ago. I assumed I'd misplaced it. I looked everywhere. She folded her hands on the desk. Then I was on the phone with my friend Dorothea, and I mentioned it, and she said that Angela had asked her, a while back, whether I'd ever talked about what would happen to the ring. I sat with that for a moment. "Dorothea said she'd told her it was going to you," Grandma Ruth continued. "I'd mentioned it to Dorothea years ago. I shouldn't have, but I did." "Grandma, I don't know for certain," she said, and held up one hand. "I want to be clear. I don't know for certain. But the ring is gone, and Derek and Angela were here for my birthday in September. They came early, while I was still resting upstairs. Angela offered to help put things away in the bedroom. I felt sick. I'm not making an accusation, Grandma Ruth said carefully. Not yet, but I need you to know, because it's your ring. It was always going to be your ring, and I am not going to let it disappear without a fight. I didn't know what to say. I thought about Angela at the dinner table, the too bright smile, the comment about Lily coming back when there was more room. I thought about Carol turning us away at the door. I thought about my mother looking away. What do you want me to do? I asked. Nothing tonight, Grandma Ruth said. Tonight I wanted you here. I wanted you to know you're not invisible to me. That you never have been. She looked at me steadily. The rest I'm going to handle myself. I just needed you to know. I drove home with Lily asleep in the back seat, the snow globe wrapped carefully in my scarf so it wouldn't rattle. The highway was mostly empty. The sky was that deep navy blue it gets in late November, clear and cold. My phone buzzed. A text from Derek. Hope tonight wasn't weird. Carol gets anxious about hosting. No hard feelings? I put the phone face down on the passenger seat. No hard feelings? 3 weeks later, Grandma Ruth called me again. I need you to come over on Saturday, she said. I'm having a family meeting. What kind of family meeting? The kind where things get settled. A pause. Bring your appetite. I'm making pot roast. I came on Saturday. So did Carol and her husband Gary. My mother, Derek and Angela. Uncle Pete and his girlfriend Sandra. Grandma Ruth's lawyer, a quiet woman named Mrs. Okafor, was sitting at the far end of the table. A leather portfolio was open in front of her. Nobody had expected a lawyer. The pot roast was on the table, but nobody was eating. Grandma Ruth stood at the head of the table. This was her room, her furniture, her china, her photographs on the walls. Her mother's portrait above the fireplace, the old woman in it wearing, I now realize, the sapphire ring. I'll be brief, Grandma Ruth said, because I've been patient long enough, and patience has a cost. Carol started to say something. Grandma Ruth raised one finger. Carol stopped. My ring is missing. Some of you know which ring I mean. She didn't look at Angela. She didn't have to. I had it in September. It was gone by October. I've looked everywhere it could reasonably be, and it is not here. So either it has legs, or someone took it. The room was very quiet. I am not the police, Grandma Ruth continued. I'm not going to interrogate anyone tonight. What I am going to do is tell you what I've already done. She nodded to Mrs. Okafor. I've made some changes. To my estate planning. To what goes to whom, and under what conditions. Angela's head came up. I've also spoken to the police, Grandma Ruth said. Not to file a report, not yet. I've simply made them aware of the situation and documented what I know. If the ring comes back to me, I will not pursue it further. If it doesn't, she let the sentence rest there. Derek cleared his throat. Grandma, this seems like a lot of... Derek, I love you, Grandma Ruth said, without any softness in it. But you married a woman who asked my friends what I was leaving to whom before I was in the ground, and I am not going to pretend I don't know that. She looked at him steadily. I'm not angry at you, but I need you to understand what has happened here, and I need Angela to understand it too. Angela's face had gone a particular shade of pale. I changed my will in November, Grandma Ruth said. Claire is my primary beneficiary now. The house, the accounts, the contents, all of it. That was always my intention. Some of you knew it. Some of you decided that knowing it meant you needed to act before I could. She paused. That was a mistake. Not because Claire needed protecting, because I don't like being taken for foolish. She sat down. We can eat now, she said. Nobody moved for a long moment. Then Uncle Pete reached for the pot roast, and slowly, uncomfortably, the meal began. My mother found me in the kitchen afterward, when I was helping Grandma Ruth with the dishes. She waited until Grandma Ruth had moved back to the dining room, and then she stood in the kitchen doorway. I didn't know about the ring, she said. I kept drying the dish in my hands. You let Carol turn us away on Thanksgiving, with Lily. I know. She asked me if Grandma Ruth wanted to see her. My mother said nothing. She's 5, I said. She'd saved up her allowance. She thought I stopped, took a breath. I'm not doing this tonight. I can't. Claire. Not tonight, Mom. She left the kitchen. I heard the front door a few minutes later. I stood at the sink for a moment, looking out the small window above it. The backyard was dark. The old oak Grandma Ruth's husband had planted when they first moved in, bare now for winter, its branches reaching up into the dark sky. I finished the dishes. Grandma Ruth and I sat in the study afterward, the way we used to when I was young and staying over on weekends. She had tea. I had the last of the coffee. The snow globe Lily had given her was on the corner of the desk, And every so often, one of us would reach over and tip it gently, watching the snow fall over the tiny village inside. "She's a good girl," Grandma Ruth said. "Lily?" "She is. She saved her allowance." A quiet smile. "3 weeks, you said." "3 weeks." Grandma Ruth turned the snow globe over slowly in her hands. "I have been watching this family for a long time," she said. "Longer than any of them realize. I see what they think I don't see." She set the globe back down. "I should have said something sooner. I waited too long, thinking things would settle on their own. They don't, usually. They just accumulate. I thought about all the Thanksgivings, the Christmases, the birthdays where I'd been the afterthought, the last-minute invitation, the extra chair squeezed in at the end, the one who didn't need to be accommodated because she would just make do." "I always just made do," I said. "You did, Grandma," Ruth said. "That's something I want you to stop." I looked at her. "Not for my sake," she said. "For Lily's. She's watching you, the way children watch. She's learning what it looks like to absorb things that shouldn't have to be absorbed." She paused. "You don't have to fight. You don't have to make drama. But you can stop making it easy for people to treat you like you don't matter." The fire was low. The house was quiet. Outside, the first real snow of the season was starting to come down. I could see it through the window, white and soft against the dark. "The ring," I said quietly. "Do you really think Angela—" "I think I'll never be able to prove it," Grandma Ruth said. "And that's the frustrating truth of it. I think she took it. I think she thought I was too old to notice, or too polite to say anything if I did. She looked at me. She underestimated me. Most people do at this age. I've stopped being offended by it. I've started using it." A few weeks later, I got a package in the mail. No return address. Inside, wrapped in tissue paper, was a narrow gold band with a small oval sapphire surrounded by seed pearls. No note. I held it in my palm for a long moment, standing at my kitchen counter, Lily doing her homework at the table behind me. I thought about calling Grandma Ruth, calling the police, calling Angela. I called Grandma Ruth. She picked up on the second ring. "It came back," I said. A pause. Then, "Good." Her voice was quiet, settled. "Good. It knows where it belongs." I looked at the ring in my palm. "Keep it somewhere safe," Grandma Ruth said. "Put it on, even. It was always meant to be worn." I slid it onto my right hand. It fit perfectly, the way things do when they were always supposed to be yours. I think about that Thanksgiving sometimes when I'm driving past houses where the lights are on and the windows are gold and warm. I used to feel a particular kind of longing when I saw that a wanting to be inside, to be included, to be one of the people that other people chose to make room for. I don't feel that as much anymore. My grandmother taught me something that fall, not about inheritance, or rings, or who gets what when someone is gone. She taught me that the person who decides what happens in a room is not always the loudest one in it. Sometimes it's the one who has been paying attention the longest. The one people have quietly underestimated for years. The one who waits until the right moment and then sets things right with 4 words and a steady look. "Sit down, Carol." Lily has the snow globe on her bookshelf now. She turns it over sometimes before bed, watching the snow fall over the little village inside. She doesn't remember the drive home from Thanksgiving, the quiet in the car, the question she asked me that I couldn't answer. She remembers that Grandma Ruth loved the snow globe, that she said it was the most beautiful thing anyone had given her in years. That's the thing about children. They hold on to the love, and they let the rest fall away. I'm still learning to do the same.